My name is John Fluffies. I'm one of the co-founders of the Save the Imagination Foundation.
They call me the General. Fluffies and I, we started this Imagination Foundation.
How did this Imagination Foundation start?
Well, there's three of us that got the idea together. It's my friend Bob, the General. I like to call him that. You know, myself and my imaginary friend, Senor Happy. Save the Imagination Foundation is a foundation, and we help imaginary friends find jobs in the real world. You know, we're a job temp agency for imaginary friends.
What is the Save the Imagination Foundation?
Well, like any other foundation, we're a group of people who believe in a certain cause, and we're funded by donations. The money comes from a savings account that was created by Betty James. Well, the late Betty James. She was the wife of the inventor of the Slinky, Richard James. And she set up the savings account after her husband had suffered a midlife crisis. And they got a divorce. So she wanted to say, you know, it was her rainy day fund. She got a call from a bank in New York City. And, you know, basically they asked her what she was going to do with her savings account. You know, after, 20 some years. So what she ended up doing was she got together with the lawyers and, excuse me, that's better. She got together with the lawyers and they decided to create a fund, you know, basically give the money to a worthy cause. You know, what that cause was, they weren't sure yet. And around this time, I posted a blog on the internet on how the youth of America was losing their imagination. You know, I would notice that, you know, all the kids do nowadays is play video games and, you know, text message each other. And they're on their cell phones all the time, you know, conversations going on back and forth through text, even though they're sitting next to each other. You know, no imagination whatsoever. And, you know, it's one of my greatest works, I think. And by coincidence, a couple days after I had posted it on the internet, Ms. James came across it and believed in my cause. So, you know, her lawyers called me up and they were wondering if I was interested in using their money to try to find a way to save the imagination. Okay, and what is your role for the Save the Imagination Foundation?
My role. Well, my role is very special indeed. I'm search and rescue. I found these little fellas abandoned in the streets, different parts. The children have left these imaginary friends alone without any sort of help. These guys need somebody. And that's where I come in. That's where John Fluffies comes in. I find them, he rescues them. That's my role.
Since we're a small foundation right now, just getting started, we've helped out at least 50 imaginary friends get real jobs in the real world. Some of them are very, very, very popular, and you'd be surprised to know that they were imaginary friends. There's a pop singer, Lady Gaga. She's an imaginary friend. But I mean, seriously, when you look at her, seeing the videos and her in her costumes, it's really not that hard to believe she's an imaginary friend. Then, I'm kind of ashamed that I helped them, but I gotta help everybody. The Kardashian sisters, they're also imaginary. I mean, seriously, think about it. You've seen the show, some of the stuff that they've done. It's not normal. Well, since we started the foundation, we've actually seen an increase in jobs for imaginary friends. Naturally, we can't help them all. From what you see up there,
I was in a special group of elite soldiers who were tasked to take out a classified target. Well, it didn't take too long for shit to hit the fan. I was left alone. My entire squad had been taken out. Enemy soldiers are approaching pretty fast. I was down to my last bullet. It was over for me. Luckily, an old friend came to visit. Senor Pepperbottoms, my old childhood friend. He made me feel safe, I was out there by myself for about 3 weeks with only Pepperbottoms to help me through it. Well, somehow, we got through it. And when I came back to the States, Pepperbottoms told me how to build this thing. Where is it? Eye patch. The eye patch helps me see more imaginary friends, other than Pepperbottoms. Somehow, in the midst of battle, Pepperbottoms came back to me. And he told me they had been on my ass the entire time, just right behind me, and I never noticed. Well, I told Pepperbottoms that I'd help him out as best as I could, but it wasn't enough. There was other imaginary friends out there that needed help. I made it my mission to help them out as well. And that's how I met Mr. Fluffies. Oh, John.
As is for the device, as you can see, Senor Happy, I can see him without the device, but because I made him, right, so I can see him. But all the other imaginary friends, I really can't interact with them without the use of the glasses and the headset, and that's how I'm able to see them.
Who taught you how to make this device?
Well, it was actually Senor Happy came to me with the blueprints on how to create said device. It can be created with straws, cardboard, anything. The whole point is to basically be creative and use my imagination. And just about any device will work as long as you're creative when you're building it. An imaginary friend is a psychological or sociological phenomenon. They believe that the imaginary friend is created through a trauma or because the child has no friends, and I for a fact know that is not the case.
Does an imaginary friend interact with the real world? If he's imaginary, wouldn't that make it impossible?
Well, yeah, at first it does sound impossible, but it's actually through the use of contracts and licensing. What we do is we create a contract with the imaginary friend, and they gain 100% of the likeness right to their name. So with that said contract, it's binding them to the real world. Kids nowadays don't really use their imagination. They're playing video games, texting away, cell phones. Basically, society has trained them to push buttons. You know, everything we do is related around some kind of electronic device. You know, it's watching TV. You know, parents are working, and it's usually the television that raises the child. So the child gets used to pushing their buttons on the remote, and that translates to pushing buttons on a cell phone, and the cell phone to a video game controller. And in America, we're a society that we want everything given to us. We're no longer like to use our imagination or try to figure things out on our own. We want the answer straight away. So naturally, with the increase in technology, the decline of the imaginary friend was the cause of that. The answer was right in front of us all along. In order to save the imagination, we have to be creative with your imagination. Construct something, draw something, build something. The point is, use your imagination, folks. Don't let technology control you. And by doing this, even if it means, you know, one person at a time, we can and will save the imagination.